Here we go. Folks, with the Boston Tea Party, we could sit here and talk about it forever. A bunch of idiots took tea and threw it in the water. That's the Boston Tea Party. We gave a date, right? The 16th. We mentioned the fact that it was the destruction of property. Is that true? Did we say that? It's the protest. What you really need to know is the Boston Tea Party is going to create a chain reaction. England isn't going to repeal something. England isn't going to feel bad. England is about to get angry. And here it comes. Sugar stamp, Declaratory Township Tea Coercive. Sure sounds dumb to take Cleveland. The C is your final law, and it is called the Coercive Acts. Some of you are like, well, we didn't really say much about the Tea Party. You're right. The Tea Party is exactly what it is. It is angry Sons of Liberty destroying tea. The Coercive Act is England's response. So basically, the colonists destroy the tea, and England is about to go ballistic. They're angry, they're mad, and they want punishment. And I'm going to go back to what Griffin was asking. Notice, England is going to make a decision. Teachers sometimes do this. Maybe it's by fault. I could try to blame you all. I could try to catch you all. Or I pick the one person who irritates me and upsets me and causes the most problem, and I'm going to pin everything on them. And what is the simple logic? If I put all the blame on Massachusetts for everything bad that has happened in the last 100 years, Massachusetts is going to get a world of hurt, but the other 12 get nothing. No penalty, no restrictions, and what is England hoping? Massachusetts will be alone, and the other 12 counties are going to go, sorry, and back away. Because if you support Massachusetts, Mommy will turn her eyes on you. It is very simple. You are not in trouble. All you have to say, Massachusetts made us do it. Massachusetts, they told us these bad things, and we just followed like stupid kids. Bad, Massachusetts. Bad. That's it. And folks, if you're willing to say, Mommy, I'm sorry, I should have listened to Massachusetts, you get nothing. The Coercive Acts, and why don't we get this out of the way right away? The Coercive Act is the proper name. That is the real title. That's why we call it, sure sounds dumb to take Cleveland. In the counties, they don't call it that. In fact, I would say that in reality, they use the two terms equally, 50-50. In the counties, they call it the Intolerable Act. They say that they're terrible, they're horrible, they're unreasonable. You know, the king has lost control. So the Intolerable Act and the Coercive Act is the same thing. Technically, of course, intolerable is the colonist name, coercive is the proper name. Now, let's go to what Griffin, I think, was asking. Well, what exactly does it do? There are 5 parts. So the Coercive Act is actually a series of laws that is broken into 5 sub-laws. So here they come. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 1, absolutely, positively is the big boy. This is the real one. This is the main law. It is called the Boston Port Act. Boston Harbor will be shut down, closed down, until the tea is repaid. Remember the tea thrown into Boston Harbor? There was like something like 20,000 pounds of damage. Boston Harbor, and when I say closed down, the British Navy comes in. British soldiers are going to occupy Boston Harbor. They will not allow anyone to come in, come out, trade until the money is repaid. This is, no matter how you want to say it, a punishment. And now let's see if anyone's paying attention. Why could you argue the punishment does not match England's objective? England announces, in fact, England says it's not a punishment. England says we want the money back, correct? You give us the money back, everything's good. Why doesn't this add up? All right, if England wants the money back, why would you close England's #1 source of revenue? So it appears that England is trying to send a message. Because as long as that port is closed, what happened in Massachusetts? She's going to lose money. She's going to hurt. She's going to struggle. Now let's see if anybody's really clever. Remember, it's Massachusetts and the other 12 get nothing. What is Mama actually expecting the other 12 to do? All of the business that normally goes through Boston, right? All of the products that Boston normally trades, doesn't someone still need to buy that fish and that whale blubber and whatever the heck it is? Couldn't some county use this as an opportunity to basically pick up, benefit from Massachusetts' turmoil? England is actually hoping that the other counties, kind of like little vultures, sort of pick Massachusetts at the bones and leave Massachusetts for dead. Number 2, Administration of Justice Act. Administration of Justice. Please listen carefully. The governor may transfer any court case outside of the county. And again, you know, folks, isn't that what lawyers do? They make things sound fancy, they write in proper words. The governor may transfer any court case outside the county. Clearly, the law is saying that we want to take certain cases and move them outside of Massachusetts. Who is this for? Sons of Liberty. Remember how the smugglers go to vice admiralty courts, right? Because there were crimes on the ocean? The problem is, Sons of Liberty do their crime inside the county. This law allows a member of the Sons of Liberty to be tried in, England. Normally when you have a trial, the decision is made by the jury is made up of the people who live in the location. If you have a jury in Massachusetts, in Boston, it would be made up of Bostonians, right? If you all of a sudden have a jury of the Sons of Liberty, but the jury is held in London, is the verdict going to be different? Oh, yes. That's the purpose of the law. They want the Sons of Liberty, because the Sons of Liberty are the one who did the Tea Party. 3, the Massachusetts Government Act. The Massachusetts Charter is ripped up. That would be like the Massachusetts Fundamental Order. It is ripped up. The king literally dissolves the Massachusetts government, and he creates a brand new charter. He creates a brand new government for Massachusetts. Most of the power will be given to the governor, and the governor is meant to be far more loyal and connected to the king. This is very similar. Remember Charles II? Remember, this is an attempt to argue that self-government goes against the will of the king. They are now saying that in Massachusetts, the king will determine and set up the government. Number 4. Number 4 makes perfect sense. If you don't get it, please, please, please show courage. Number 4 is a new quartering act. If you want, you can call it the Boston Quartering Act. You can call it the Quartering Act of 1773. I mean, it doesn't matter. Why do we need a quartering act? What is this for? The English are already whining about money. As the British Army shuts down Boston Harbor, they are now telling the city of Boston, you have to pay for the army that is occupying you. So as the British Army literally takes over Boston, it is up to the city to pay for and keep up the army that is closed off the very city that took away your money. So if anybody is curious, this quartering act, why are we saying it is very specific to Boston? This quartering act specifically goes with the Boston Port Act. Number 5. Does everybody understand how number 1, 2, 3, 4 are specifically dealing with Boston? Does everybody see how they are a retaliation to the Tea Party? Is everybody okay with that? Number 5 does not. Number 5 has nothing to do with Boston. It has nothing to do with Massachusetts. Why on earth is number 5 here? England, which has now been dealing with the 13 counties for the last several years, which has had a lot of headaches, the Boston Massacre, all the smuggling, is going to use this opportunity to fix another potential problem. Number 5 is called the Quebec Act. Does anyone remember in what year did England get Quebec or Canada? It's part of the Peace of Paris. The Peace of Paris is one of the 3 Ps. Therefore, it's part of, because they're the 1763. Peace of Paris, Pontiac's Rebellion, Proclamation of 1763. My point is, England has not owned Canada long, correct? The purpose of the Quebec Act is to completely focus, restructure, reorganize the Canadian government, prevent or neglect, prevent the self-government. Why? In England's mind, to prevent Canada from becoming a spoiled, ungrateful little brat like the 13 colonies. So the Quebec Act, I mean, if you think about it, it's very logical. As England is having problem with Massachusetts and the 13, this is their way of trying to prevent problems in Canada before they ever start. And please be aware, Canada really had not had problems. Up until this point, the Canadians were very happy with England. Is everybody okay with the Coercive Act? So right now, what have we had? Sugar, stamp, declaratory township, tea, coercive. I'm sorry, I don't have an acronym. Starting at this point, we go into the next group of items. They absolutely, positively are important, but I don't have an acronym. What have we covered up to this point? The end of the French-Indian War and taxation. Okay? What we will see now is attempts to create a government and the beginning of violence, the fighting, the war, the battles. Continental Congress, 1774. England has imposed the Coercive Acts. The colonies call a meeting called the First Continental Congress where everybody is invited to get together to discuss what should we do. Do they agree with England and simply support Mom? Do they reject the Coercive Acts? Meeting is in Philadelphia, that I would like. So we'll go with that. Can anyone tell me what are the options you have at this meeting? Generally speaking, there were some colonies, there were some people who refused to attend the meeting. There were some people who do not want to go. And let's be honest, they do not want to have a discussion. They do not want to show any loyalty to Massachusetts. There are some groups, and I would agree that the Chesapeake is probably the most difficult to convince. When you look at the First Continental Congress, there are going to be two very, very, very clear. Number one is, we must stand! This could happen to anyone! England is out of control! We must resist! Where might that come from? Ladies and gentlemen, Massachusetts wants action. Massachusetts wants violence. And why would they? They're already in trouble. They're going to get punished. In fact, at the First Continental Congress, the official name is, the Massachusetts come up with what is called the Suffolk Result. That is the Massachusetts Plan. Suffolk, S-U-F-F-O-L-K. Here's what the Massachusetts want. Do not obey the law. Ignore the Coercive Acts. Protest the Coercive Acts. Form militias. Demand the repeal of all taxes. Boycott. Last. Threaten England that if she does not obey, maybe we do not need her. If you need to be more proper, there are people in Massachusetts that are beginning to say a very, very threatening. Independence. Revolution. Ladies and gentlemen, the Massachusetts are in trouble. They're angry. They're mad. Their number one weapon is they try to convince the other 12 counties that if you do not stick with us, you will be next. Massachusetts is first, and if we do not work together, remember the join or die versus the French, that is what Massachusetts will try to argue. All right, there's Suffolk. The next thing, and this is where you guys, I think, had trouble. The single most important word you need to get down is absolute, total fear. Massachusetts talks bold and brave, but make no mistake, the other counties are terrified. You know what? They agree that the Coercive Acts are a step too far. They agree the king has become abusive. They are afraid. Most of you are not stupid. You do not put yourself in the way of harm. The other counties feel bad for Massachusetts. They feel sympathy for Massachusetts. Independence? The 13 colonies could not even work together against France. They can barely deal with the Indian problem. And you're insinuating that we should piss off Mom, the most powerful nation on earth, the one who controls all of our trade on the ocean? It's suicide. You need to understand, folks, the big problem right now is most people absolutely, positively believe that word independence is crazy. England is invincible. Plan number 2. Folks, folks, plan number 2 is made by Pennsylvania. That makes sense. Remember the Quakers? They like to compromise. They like to work stuff out. Plan number 2 is called the Galloway Plan. It's made by a man named Joseph Galloway. For those of you who have paid attention, the Galloway Plan makes sense. It's an ingenious, intelligent plan. And folks, I think in the Galloway Plan, you get the idea of, are we trying to work out a deal, or do some of the counties have other motives? Here's the Galloway Plan. Joseph Galloway proposes, why don't we create a parliament made up of the 13 colonies? Why don't we create an American legislature? This parliament would have the ability to govern all 13 colonies and would have the ability to raise taxes on behalf of the king. Let me clarify. Joseph Galloway is going to go with, okay, what is our primary argument? We're not represented. This is not about taxing. This is not about people being killed in Boston. This is about representation. Joseph Galloway makes a proposal where colonists would get to vote. They would create a parliament of the 13 colonies for the purpose of raising taxes and revenue. The Galloway Plan is designed to be a compromise that does what England wants, and it allows the colonies to kind of get out of the trouble. The new parliament would be able to raise taxes on behalf of England, but the colonies could say, what? We are represented. England would get what they wanted, and the colonies, so this is where you kind of see, are the colonies really after representation, or was this all really about paying taxes? That plan will also be a challenge. I'm going to be honest, number 3 is not exciting, but this is what they do. The First Continental Congress had a lot of discussion, and this is their official policy. It is called the Declaration and Resolve. Although that seems like a very, kind of proper name, they are declaring and resolving to do. That is literally what it means. We declare and we resolve. We will do this. Number 1, all citizens must have, number 1, all the counties agree that life, liberty, property must be protected. So that's number 1. Number 2, Parliament has no control over internal affairs. Parliament has control over external affairs. Folks, is it very clear? For example, taxation. Is it internal or external? What would Massachusetts say? It's internal. What do you suppose Virginia would say? Yeah, it's external, Mom, but that makes a big difference. Folks, what is it I want you to notice? The Declaration of Resolve, it is a weak statement, but all the counties were able to agree. So it's kind of a unification of the 13 counties. The problem is it's not very clear. It doesn't really say what we're going to do, does it? At this point, we're still under First Continental Congress. I would draw a line. There are going to be 2 more items. These 2 items will be agreed upon by the colonies, but they will not be written down. They will not be agreed upon. They will not be informed to the king. These are, once again, the very secret agreements. Number one is they once again agree to a boycott. All 13 colonies will show support of Massachusetts in a boycott of English goods. Number 2, it is agreed that colonies will begin to create and form committees of safety and inspection. Now, as I say that, a lot of you are like, man, all these new terms, think about it. It's not a new term. What is a stupid committee of safety and inspection? It's a militia. Why don't they use the word militia? Militia is a military term. It's a threatening term. A committee of safety and inspection, it's more open. It sounds like it could be simply a standard police force. Maybe it deals with the Indians. It sounds like it's more for local control. It is a way that the counties could all agree, because if you simply have a safety and inspection committee, any county could, maybe we're trying to track down smugglers. That would make England happy. 1775, January. Guess what? Massachusetts has not paid. Their harbor is still closed. It's been going on for a year, and the king is getting angry. In January of 1775, King George sends orders to Boston. Folks, this is both very simple and very complicated. In January of 1775, King George sends orders to Massachusetts to his commanding general, a man by the name of Gage. And the order in January of 1775 says, Massachusetts is in a state of rebellion. You are authorized to subdue a rebellion. By January of 1775, King George is no longer looking at this as a protest. He is no longer looking at this as a misunderstanding. The people of Massachusetts are in outright defiance. They are challenging the king. In January of 1775, Massachusetts is going to be punished. If Massachusetts does not surrender, pay back the money, we will start blood, war. It will be with this that the counties need to start picking. This will get us to Lexington.